Though ease of use has won Ping++ thousands of business clients, security is the undoubted top concern for them. At the same time, other players are also looking to make inroads into this niche market.
Minor mishaps in the payment process can occur, but the Ping++ founder Jin Yiye is confident his team would notice any glitches and correct them before they swirl out of control. Ping++ offers 24/7 monitoring on all of its clients' transactions and aims to provide at least 10 hours of online assistance on weekdays.
Our services can be done mainly online. Then we also offer customer service via QQ and telephone. We believe we can cover all China.
When customers find glitches in the code and report it to us, we will provide new patches online immediately to all users. This is a bold move, but we will ensure that those updates are stable and secure so that we can make our customers happy.
Ping++ is free to use, and its only revenue source comes from its partners. The company has agreements with Alipay, Tenpay, and a number of other payment service providers. Its partners share a small percentage of the revenues from transactions made on Ping++. But that isn't a business that will lead to long-term success.
目前来看，平台是免费的，但据我了解，他们接下来有收费的倾向。从目前来看，他们的稳定性基本
At the moment, Ping++ services are free of charge, but we learned that they may start charging. The platform is really stable without major problems, but one thing they need to do is offer more services. Payment transactions and receipts cannot be separated. I hope Ping++ can offer inventory sorting services for us. If they can provide more quality services, we're willing to pay for it.
A software suite can cost millions, but many companies don't need everything available. A SaaS platform subscription costs tens of thousands of yuan at most, and that's the business model that Ping++ is moving towards.
In 2014, we said we were just solely a software development kit, a toolkit. That was how we promoted who we were. But in 2015, we determined ourselves to be a SaaS platform. The difference is that toolkits have an uncertain future due to limited user dependency. For a SaaS platform, customers have to use it on a daily basis and depend on it more, which in turn increases our value. We started to talk less about SDK and more about SaaS. For 2016, we're only focusing on how to offer better services as software services.
其实是有着比较大的转型，在这一块就是我们现在很少谈开发者工具了，我们现在谈更多是企业级的 SaaS。
Professor Jia, now I see how Ping++ can be very, very useful to especially a lot of small business owners. But we talk about all the upsides of using Ping++. What are some of the major concerns as clients could have?
Right. I think when it comes to financial services, there are several common concerns. One is obviously reliability, right? How reliable is the system, right? We're talking about financial transactions. Is the system able to handle a large number of transactions simultaneously, right? One extreme example would be the November 11th, that shopping festival hosted by Alibaba, right? Taobao. Right? So if there are a number of customers who are making payment at the same time, is your system stable enough to be able to handle that kind of transactions, right? And a second concern is obviously information security, right? So we're talking about individuals, sort of bank accounts. We're talking about financial records, right? So there is obvious concern of data leakage, right? You don't want any of these information to leak out, to outside. And the third concern is actually ease of use, right? So is this system user-friendly? As a business owner, am I able to access the system and download a record of all the transactions that happen on my platform, right? How easy it is to access these information. So that's a third concern. And a fourth concern is actually, will my business become overly reliant on this payment platform, right? So if I have to rely solely on Ping++, if anything were to go wrong with this business or with this company, well, what am I going to do, right? So this is actually quite a concern from the business owner's perspective, especially now since Ping++ itself is also a startup company. So these concerns are even greater in that sense.
Professor Jia, Ping Plus Plus is often compared to Stripe. They're saying this is the Chinese version of Stripe. However, the founders of Ping Plus Plus insist that they're very different. Can you actually compare these two? Talk about the similarities and differences?
Sure. It's a great question, Tracy. It's really interesting to see that for almost every startup company in China, we're always trying to look for a comparable company in the U.S., right, with similar business models. So Stripe, of course, in this case, is used to be compared to Ping Plus Plus. Now, Stripe in the U.S. is also a startup company, and it's being financially backed by venture capitalists like Peter Thiel, and also leading venture capital firms like Sequoia. So it's one of the sort of promising startup company in the U.S. as well. I think in terms of the product offerings, the two are not that different. So there's all in the third-party payment system. They all serve as a gateway, to this third-party payment mechanism. However, what's different is the market they're in. Obviously, Stripe mostly work in the U.S. And if you look at the market condition in the U.S., well, first of all, U.S. has a much more mature financial system. People are very used to writing, checks to make payments, and they're used to pay by credit cards, right? And it's actually quite convenient, so you can pay everything by credit card. So this is sort of a deeply rooted consumption habit, among U.S. consumers.
That's hard to break, right?
Exactly. Whereas in contrast, in China, our financial system obviously is still developing, right? So there is greater demand for alternative, more efficient payment mechanisms, such as third-party payment system. So. In terms of changing user habit, I think in China, consumers are more used to this new option, whereas in the U.S., the biggest challenge is to try to change consumer user habits. Right? However, another dimension of difference is regulation. So in the U.S., the capital market is sort of self-regulated. The third-party payment system is also sort of market-regulated. But whereas in China, all these Alipay, WeChat payments, there's a lot of talks about how Chinese government should properly regulate these third-party payment system, because after all, they have already become a very important part of the financial system. Right? So going forward, the regulation of these payment system will also affect the business of Ping Plus Plus. Right?
So regulatory risks are still there, and it's greater than perhaps what Stripe faced.
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
So let's talk about competition. Obviously, third-party payment system is no longer the stranger to a lot of Chinese consumers. However, Ping Plus Plus is a little different. So it serves as a platform, the gateway to a lot of other payment systems.
Exactly.
Does that make the barrier to entry into this market more difficult, since you have to negotiate with so many partners all at once?
I think so, yes, but only to a certain extent. I think in the early stage, competition is inevitable, right? So basically, all these new business, they're providing new gateways, to these variety of third-party payment systems. So in the early stage, basically, there will be a lot of competition. However, it's also true with other industries. As time evolves over time, basically, whoever has advantage, whoever is able to provide better services, or whoever is able to accumulate a large number of users, they will be able to build up a natural monopoly. In the case of Ping Plus Plus, at this point, they're still competing for natural monopoly. Right. But whether or not at some point, this market will be regulated by the Chinese government or becomes sort of a monopoly play, and the regulation will come into play, I think that still remains to be seen.
But it's probably unlikely that they'll be granted this government-given monopoly over the third-party platform payment system.
Well, it's debatable, because if you look at the third-party payment platforms, right, they do have to have license from the Chinese government in order to operate in that sector. So whether or not, even though the Ping Plus Plus is just an integrated gateway, but whether or not this particular type of business will also be regulated, I think it remains to be seen.
I see. That means if they were to be granted a license, that's going to give Ping Plus Plus a huge advantage over its competitors in the long run.
Right.